Welcome to Suppose, a podcast where authors discuss the extraordinary. I'm James B. Hassell,
And I'm Sarah Jaune.
and this week we're discussing Suppose We Solve School Shootings.
Oh, fuck. Really?
Yeah, that's the reaction I wanted. What? It's topical, and there's a conversation happening, and it's never fails.
Oh,
It's always the wrong conversation.
okay. This one I probably could have used some preparation for,
Probably.
but okay.
Well, I have quite a few things to go through. I did a little bit of research today.
Okay.
With my extraordinary researching skills of Google,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Wikipedia. It
Mm-hmm.
never fails.
Absolutely.
So, I have a fun one. I'm going very literal on this first part.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think the first school shooting was?
Oh, I know it's been over 100 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
And this is literally a shooting in a school, not a mass shooting or anything that, would commonly be associated with the term.
well, you only have schools going back so far, so it can't be that far back, but I would say at least 150 years ago.
All right. So you want the weirdest answer I can give?
Okay.
July 26, 1764.
Wow.
Before America was America.
Okay. Wow.
Before the
And it
whole
was,
1776 thing. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And it was in America?
Greencastle, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Because
It,
they had finishing schools and all that shit in England and whatever. So that are older than that.
yeah. Well,
So,
this was called the Enoch Brown School Massacre. The earliest
okay.
shooting that happened on school or college property that would become the United States.
Huh.
Yeah, it,
Okay.
it literally was the Native American, the Pontiac War.
Uh-huh.
Four Delaware American Indians entered a schoolhouse near present-day Greencastle, Pennsylvania, shot and killed the schoolmaster, Enoch Brown, and 9 children were
Wow.
scalped. So yeah, it was within the school. 2 survived.
That is very unfortunate.
It is, but that blows my mind that it's 1764.
Yeah. I knew it was a while ago, but I didn't know it was quite that far back.
Yeah,
Wow.
and the next one like bumps up to 1840.
Okay, so it was a while between.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a
I
huge
can't
gap in
say
there.
that y- you know, Native Americans had a lot to go in and scalp people, so not
Yeah.
that it condones violence. I'm not condoning violence, but they had a lot of reason to be angry.
Oh yeah, I'm not condemning or not condemning or whatever. I don't.
Condoning?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
I had a 2 hour
So that
nap
doesn't
earlier
terribly
this morning.
surprise me.
Yeah.
I would be more surprised if the first shooting had been something like a disgruntled student.
Oh, that's what I was going to get into next. Well, this is the fourth on the list, and I'm just going to read the entire newspaper article because it's very short.
Okay.
And I just want to bring up we have lost a lot of language in the years following.
Okay.
So this is from August 16, 1856.
Okay.
Schoolmaster murdered. An atrocious murder has been committed in Florence, Alabama. A correspondent of the Mobile Morning Herald thus furnishes the particulars. A schoolmaster had a tame sparrow of which he was very fond, and he had warned his scholars that if any of them killed it, they should die by his hands. By accident
Huh.
or intentionally, one of the boys stepped on the bird and killed it. Alarmed at the threats of the master, the boy was afraid to return to school, but the master tranquilized the boy's mind and begged him to come back. He did so, and after the lessons were finished, he took him into a private room and strangled him. On the boy's father's hearing what had occurred, he loaded his gun and went and shot the schoolmaster dead.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this story
Over a bird?
over a bird
Wow.
strangled a kid. It doesn't say how old the kid was.
Yeah, but wow.
No, I'm not saying, it doesn't make it any better. Like, if we're talking a 13-year-old or a 17-year-old, what the fuck is going on?
Holy moly.
And sadly, the story doesn't go into, in 1856, I'm willing to say the father might have been left off on justified homicide.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think
Holy
he probably didn't have to pay any
crap.
consequences for that one.
See, now that man was mentally ill
Yeah.
and had an unhealthy healthy attachment to his bird.
Mm-hmm.
Cause
And didn't know
what
the
the hell?
cardinal rule of never take anything you care about to school.
Right?
Maybe that wasn't established back then. We've learned it since. We keep making that mistake. You always hear kids losing shit to other kids and early
Yeah.
conflicts like that. And then for quite some time after that, most of these are things to the effect of parents or other siblings killing teachers over whipping the kid.
Oh.
There is a lot of that.
Okay. Okay.
1873, Wisconsin. Chris Foote shot the school mistress for whipping his son. There's a lot of accidental shootings. A lot.
Yeah.
Once you get into the late 1800s, you get things like a bunch of drunken cowboys stopped at several schoolhouses, forcing 2 teachers to drink whiskey and firing numerous shots into 3 schoolhouses.
Sure.
As this was 1884 Boston, as news of outlaw Jesse James reached the East Coast, young boys started to imitate him. For instance, boys armed with guns shot at police investigating their activities at the Concord Street Schoolhouse.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Of course.
Uh-huh. And you get a lot of that from there on. Not a lot.
People say video games are dangerous.
Mm-hmm. And then you get some that I haven't looked into, but just the description is amazing, and some of these should be turned into larger works of fiction.
Okay.
December 13, 1898, Charleston, West Virginia.
Uh-huh.
During the school exhibition, a group of young men tried to break up a student performance. When the teacher, Fisher, tried to throw them out, they turned on him. Audience members joined the fray. The fight resulted in deaths. Harry Flasher was shot in the heart and instantly killed. Henry Carney was fatally shot in the back. Ralph Jones and 2 others were fatally shot, and George Gibson was shot in the hand. Has Harding had his skull crushed, and several others received minor wounds.
Ouch.
From trying
Over a play.
I'm guessing, school exhibition, don't know what that means. Student performance, could be like a little skit or a play. Someone trying to stop it, I don't know, maybe they were making fun of him. I have no idea. And then when they try to get thrown out, a brawl erupts. What the fuck is going on here?
Wow. Alrighty then.
Yep. And then you start and you get into a lot of let's see. Oh, I missed this one on my first reading, and now I have to read it out loud because, wow. 1905, Hickman, Kentucky. While returning from church, Professor Emmett W. Roach was ambushed by an assassin.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, but he wasn't at his school. He was just a teacher.
Yeah. I don't know why that
Why
was
would you
on the list.
assassinate a professor?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Where do you get an assassin?
Yeah. They didn't have Google at that point.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess you get that shady dude you know at the bar.
Yep.
So yeah, you get a lot of fighting over affections.
Right.
You get a lot of that, and then we get to what I'm going to call the first, the actual genesis of school shootings.
Okay.
August 1st, 1966, Austin, Texas, University of Texas massacre. Charles Whitman.
Yeah.
I think that's the first quote unquote school shooting
Yeah.
where there's no reason. And he established the pattern by, from what I've been noticing, he first killed his wife and his mother at their homes before he went to the school and started killing people.
Yeah.
And yes, later there was a big investigation into it. Yes, he had a tumor that was pushing against his amygdala.
Yep.
No one can say for certain if that's one of the causes. I'm willing to say it probably was.
I think probably was.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And
It may not be the root, or it may not be 100%. It's definitely a
Right.
factor.
But I mean, I think all of us are like have the ability to be a little bit psychotic.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you've ever faced down with a toddler, man, you know what rage can feel like because they are just horrendous little monsters. And you love them,
Oh, yes.
but they're horrendous little monsters, and make you want to like pull your hair out. This is why, we say to people who have small children who are driving them nuts, walk away,
Mm-hmm.
calm down, make sure they're in a safe place, and walk away and calm down because it's very easy to do something ugly. So I think, adding in a brain tumor that's pushing on the brain that are, or eating away the parts of your brain that make you rational enough to walk away.
Yeah.
It's just a very, so I totally would buy that.
Mm-hmm. And on that instance, I'm going to link that to the Sandy Hook thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy Hook had a very similar thing. The guy killed his mother, and then goes to the school and kills people. Has a long history of a litany of mental illness.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to call the outliers. It's the actual cases we know of that you can pretty much count on both hands that this has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I do mean, both hands since 1966. It's not a prevalent thing.
Yeah. So the high school that I went to had a shooting while I was in college. The high school that, so my mom taught elementary school, and the high school that the elementary school fed into had a school shooting, and kids were killed there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 5 or 6 kids. And then I went to Virginia Tech.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to get to Virginia Tech later.
Yeah, that school shooting was after I'd left.
Yeah.
It was a couple years after I left. So, but oh my goodness. So, I mean, for one person, it feels like that's an awful lot.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's not a lot. What I am saying is, I've known of guns in school when I was at school.
Mm-hmm.
There was no shootings, which is quite frankly miraculous in some ways.
Yeah.
But even if my tiny school, I knew of people who had guns at school.
Yeah.
Then the gun thing is way bigger an issue than anyone wants to admit.
Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about that one. My entire news feed is blown up with guns need to be gone. Really, most of the people are being very respectful. Let's just get rid of the assault rifles.
Well, that's
which is,
dumb.
I think, a very reasonable. No. But I mean, if you are a left-leaning liberal and you're asking for something, that's a very reasonable thing to ask for.
It's reasonable, but misguided.
From their perspective.
I know. I'm saying it's just
I'm not saying
misguided.
it's not. I understand, but that's like they aren't saying ban all guns.
Yeah.
Most of them are not saying that. I have one or two that are hippie freaks like that are saying that. But and then the other side is guns don't kill people, people kill people, which is true.
Yeah.
But it's harder to kill. So it's like
Well, is
all
it?
over the place. And I just am not saying anything.
See, that's the part I wanted to get into. Is like that's where I was going
People
to
killing
bring.
people?
No, the
Oh,
I,
guns killing people.
no, the assault weapon
Okay.
ban. I don't
Oh, okay.
understand it. I do. They look scary,
Mm-hmm.
but to say it's easier to kill with an AR-15 than a handgun is ludicrous. And I'm going to
Ye-
point at Virginia Tech.
yeah.
Virginia Tech is the worst school shooting that's ever happened
Yep.
in terms of victims. And the guns
Mm-hmm.
used were a 22 semi-auto and a 9mm semi-auto.
Mm-hmm.
And it's two handguns, no AR,
Yep.
no assault rifle, no pistol grip.
Yeah. I understand. I understand the whole getting rid of the assault rifle thing, though.
I understand it.
Here's
It's just
why
dumb.
I think. Yeah. Well, I mean, the guy in Vegas, he couldn't have been making those shots way up from where he was without a powerful gun. Because I mean, you can get down there with a 9mm,
Hmm.
but it's lost a lot of its steam by then.
But
So
but assault
still deadly,
assault
but
assault rifle is a very specific thing. It's a semi-automatic rifle with a pistol grip.
yeah, okay, fair
So
enough.
we're not saying
I mean,
ban
I know
rifles.
guns. I know guns. I just don't know them that much.
I
I
ha-
should
I
because my dad is a gun freak, but I just
n-
don't. I
no
mean, I grew up steeped in the guns.
no
Guns must be protected at all costs.
I had to Google it.
Okay. Okay, good. Phew.
Yeah, and I know guns fairly well. I had to Google, and that's not even a completely concrete
No,
definition.
yeah. So I might have it wrong then. They're asking for the AR-15, whatever it is.
AR-15, yeah.
Yeah, the AR-15 to be banned. So a lot of my friends on Facebook are asking for the ban. I can see that one. I
I
can see
can't.
that, and I
No.
think that's a fairly reasonable request to make. I just don't think it's going to solve anything.
Yeah, so it's not reasonable.
Well,
If it's not going to solve anything,
it needs to
the
move the
reasons.
conversation
The conversation.
past.
That's
The conversation goes, we cannot talk about the violence right now because it's too soon, and we
Yeah,
need to
fuck
be
that.
in your thoughts and prayers,
Yeah,
which is
fuck that too.
bullshit. Exactly, it's bullshit
Hmm.
because they don't actually mean it. If
Yeah.
you really meant it, you would do something about it. I say that to my kids: don't hit somebody, say you're sorry, and then hit them again.
Hmm.
Don't do that. You look like a dick. Don't do that. So anyway, yeah, and then everybody forgets because we have a short attention span. And in the
Yes.
era of Trump, that means we forget like yesterday.
But here's what I'm getting at, because yes, 2 days from now, Russia will be the talk again,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone will forget this talk. And why? I don't think it's the short attention span. I think this talk is useless because
Okay.
no one is having the right conversation.
Which is
It's not about assault rifles. Banning assault rifles does nothing. Therefore, no one really cares about banning assault rifles. They just say it because that's what they think they need to say.
okay.
Because if you ban assault rifles, who the fuck cares?
Well,
I mean,
make it harder for a 19-year-old to get one.
yes,
Possibly.
but it won't make it harder for a 19-year-old to get a semi-automatic 357. Not 357, 516.
No. I was gonna say no.
Yeah, no, that was the wrong one. I was mixing up my terms. I'm sleepy. Leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
It will not stop them from getting a semi-automatic rifle that doesn't have a pistol grip.
Yeah.
That looks scary. Okay, it looks scary. Who the fuck cares? And I'm not saying ban all guns, because we're talking about a handful of incidences that most likely wouldn't have been stopped by anything.
Yeah. Well, this last one, if the FBI something, that's a possibility.
Well, that's the other thing is, why is the first thing everyone's saying for the government to ban things? The government is so inept that they knew this person and did nothing about it.
It's true.
So,
It's
and
very true.
and if we want to talk about government government regulations and school shootings, let's look at Kent State. May 4th,
Tell me.
1970.
Uh-huh. I don't remember what happened there.
Uh, Ohio National Guard during a mass protest against the Vietnam War at Kent
Oh,
State. 28 guardsmen fired
yes.
approximately 70 or 67 rounds over a period of 13 seconds, killing 4 students and wounding 9 others.
Yes, I do remember that now.
Yeah.
That was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Mob mentality at its finest, man.
Mob mentality and government intervention.
Yeah, all right.
Because let's face it, we're not talking
So
activist
everybody,
versus activist here.
so I was thinking about it. Or no, I was thinking about this, and this is an it's not really an ironic thing. Scratch that. So today I had to take my kid to school at his college,
Hmm.
and I had to be back at my house to relieve the babysitter because the babysitter had to pick up his kid. Okay? They were doing a lockdown drill for 20 minutes where you had to shelter in place in a locked schoolroom. And I'm sending my kid a message saying, if you don't get out of your classroom on time, I'm leaving you here for the lockdown because I have to go home. It just seems like the stupidest thing to say. Thankfully, we escaped on time.
Yeah.
We were walking out to the cars just as the bells went.
He escaped the lockdown,
We escaped the lockdown.
which is probably the best advice of what needs to happen if the school's going into lockdown is to escape the lockdown.
Uh-huh.
So
I don't know, but shelter in place drills, man. And I never dealt with this before because my kid was, my kids are homeschooled. But I have something else that was kind of scary because, my kid is 13, but he's in college. He's wicked smart, very intuitive. And we were discussing, what the hell was it? I think it was, I don't remember what it was. It was a shooting. And he said to me, I didn't realize people could die like that. And I'm like, what? And he's like, well, in the video games, they don't really die like that. And I went, oh, damn it. You just proved the video game theory.
Nah.
Not really, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
It was one of those like, wow, really?
Well, see, that's the other part is of like the wrong conversation part, and it happens every time. Columbine happened. The conversation was, did Marilyn Manson cause this? That's the wrong conversation.
That.
That's why it went nowhere.
Yeah.
Did video games cause this? Wrong conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Did access to assault rifles cause this? Wrong conversation.
Okay.
It's getting closer, but it's still wrong.
All right.
So if we're going to look at the cause, and the reason, and even having the right conversation is depressingly not worth it almost. Because if we're looking at mental health, brain tumors, schizophrenia, these aren't really things we can do anything about.
Yeah. I mean, detect them sooner.
Detect them sooner, try to help better.
Yeah.
And if we want to get into really, really possibly deep conversations, I think the better way to look at it is to public schools. Is there something about a public school that makes itself a better target?
Really? You're going to go there, huh?
Mm-hmm. I want to have right conversations. And even if they're not right, maybe they're not. I'm not claiming I have all the answers here. But I'd rather have a more productive conversation. Because, I mean, let's look at it. All these schools, how many of them are private schools? How many of those have shown up in the news?
Well, there are not that many private schools.
There's not, but they're there.
And you have a lot of really messed up rich kids in private schools.
Yeah, so shouldn't they be going off more if they're that messed up?
I don't know. But private schools are not much better than public schools.
I'm not saying they're better. I'm saying they might be safer.
Well, it's only safer for a certain number of people.
Well, that's in a currently privatized, how they're privatized now is, yes, according to, and take this with a giant grain of salt because it comes from the Council for American Private Education.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But I'm just looking for stats here, and they were the first ones I found. Gang presence in school 2% private, 19% public. Odds of becoming a victim of crime 2% private, 4% public. Physical attack by another school 3% of private schools, 6% of public schools. And I'm just going to say this is what you would expect from rich kids.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that
Socioeconomic status matters because you don't
Yes.
join a gang unless you really have no other choices in things. Because it feels, I mean, psychologically, it's a camaraderie thing and a way to give yourself status and a way to feel like a man and to have a tribe. And I mean that in the, like holistic sense of the word, not as like a racial thing.
Yeah.
But it can be.
Yes.
It can be a racial thing.
No, gangs are racial things. I'm sorry.
Not all of them.
No.
Most of them. But
I was gonna say,
yeah.
Name me a gang that
Well, I
doesn't
don't
have
know
a
those
racial
gangs.
tie.
I'm just a rich white girl. What do I know?
Okay, fair enough.
What
But
the hell do I know?
and I don't.
I live in Baltimore, which is now the most dangerous city in America.
I was about to say, being in Baltimore should tell you a little bit about gangs.
Yeah, it should,
But-
but
There is a racial component to gangs, and I'm not saying it's a minority thing. I'm saying gangs are racial, including neo-Nazis, things to that effect, which are just other gangs, including white prison gangs, which
Okay.
where most gangs stem from is prison, and all prison gangs are racially divided.
Huh.
It's
well, I
just
mean, they
how
don't
that
really have
works.
anything better to do in a prison except to establish a pecking order and a dominance hierarchy. So, okay,
Yeah.
you do not want to be at the bottom of that pecking order in prison.
Yeah,
That
but
sounds dreadful.
I'm fairly certain that's where at least modern gangs stem from, were prison gangs. Therefore, whenever you got out, you maintained your gang relations, and then there was a co-mingling there.
Continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so you think it's the schools?
I think it's partially the schools
Okay.
and how the schools are run.
You really, really want to get a shot, don't you?
Who's gonna shoot us? The people who don't want anyone to have guns?
Metaphorically.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh God. You're saying this to somebody whose mother was a public school teacher for 37 years.
No, I'm not saying it's the teacher's fault.
I think you know what though, I'm thinking about it and it's racing through my head. And okay, so you get a kid who I posted this article not that long ago where you have kids and they test their creativity and something like, I don't even know, I'm gonna find it. So they test their creativity and the kids were really, really creative before they started school. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, I did not like this survey. I really didn't like how they did this. Even it was done by NASA. As far as I can tell, they just measured public school kids longitudinally. Is that the right way of saying it?
Yes.
Yeah, longitudinally. So they saw that 4 and 5-year-olds had an over 90% genius creativity rate. Okay.
Mhm.
By the time that they were 15, it had dropped to 12%.
Yeah.
They
Wow.
didn't test kids who were not in school systems. So
Hmm.
you do not know for sure that this is not a consequence of natural aging versus the school. And the
Right.
article is blaming it on the school system. I couldn't find, I mean, it's possible the study is out there, but I could not find the study um,
Yeah.
enough to read it. So you know,
Hmm.
it's a not unreasonable website, but at the same time, it's like, you know, unless you do a
Yeah.
study against kids that are not in a school system or in different school systems, you do not know. You can't just say that a kid is not going to lose their imagination as they age. But the more I think about it, it's like, okay, how many kids do I know that were bright and happy at 3 and 4, and they go into the school system and they become angry and rebellious and mouthy and all of these other things that are just like, oh, I have a teenager who is delightful.
Yeah. I was
He's
about to say,
absolutely delightful. I love him. I love being with him. I like talking to him. And it's not because I'm a sainted parent, because I'm not a saint. He's not an asshole.
right.
That's all there is. He's just not, I mean, he can be an asshole to his brother, but otherwise he's not an asshole. So, like, you know, it doesn't have to be this way.
Hmm.
But, you know, again, it could be that they're boys too, because the girls in my life are all drama, and little
But
girls
but you
randomly
can
cry over the damnedest things.
but you can compare it anecdotally with other homeschool kids that
I
you know.
can. And they're awesome. I know several teenagers who are homeschooled, and they're great kids. And they're not bastards to their parents, and they're not. It's more of the rule rather than the exception to have a really great teenager if they've been homeschooled most of their life.
Hmm. And I've even seen, public school kids who get pulled into homeschool and their attitude flips 180.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm,
have not I have not experienced that necessarily in my personal friends, so I can't comment on that, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me.
yeah.
You get somebody out of a really stressful environment
Hmm.
and they just change. One of my friends, now this is legitimately relevant. One of my friends has 3 children and her oldest is 6. And she recently got out of a really bad marriage that was not physically abusive but was emotionally abusive.
Hmm.
Her oldest child was a hellion. He was very rough. He would walk by his brother, his baby brother, who's 1, and just knock him flat on his face. He'd
Yeah.
walk by without looking at him, hit him in the head so that he'd fall down and smack his face.
Hmm.
That was what he was like. So his dad has been out of the picture now for 2 months, and I just got to see them, and I watched this child walk by his baby brother. He patted him gently on the head and kept going.
Yeah.
And to say that was stunning is an understatement.
Hmm.
It was constant abuse of his siblings, and he's calming down because the environment he's in is no longer quite as toxic.
Yes.
So,
And what is public school? I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying teachers. I'm saying this is a very systemic problem of how schools are designed. It's
they are just
it's nothing but toxicity. It's
so I say,
un-
yeah,
because the teachers are underpaid.
yeah.
The system that's currently used is, let's take these balls of energy and creativity and tell them to sit forever
Yep.
doing shit
Hmm.
they don't care about.
Yep. Yeah. I
To be quite
I
frank,
say
I'm
this.
surprised there's not more.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, my oldest asked me if I was going to put my middle child in public school at any point, or no, put the little one. The little one's not yet started kindergarten. I said, no, why would I do that? And he said, so you can learn to be socialized. And I was like, really? I'm getting the socializing question from you? Really?
Right?
But I get what he's saying. He doesn't know so he went to camp last summer and he didn't know all the sexual innuendos that all the other boys were saying to him
Hmm.
because he'd never heard them before. And he's like, I'm missing out. And I'm like, well, that's funny, but no, you know, like we're not going there.
Yeah.
Okay, but it, I'm like, why would I do this? I pulled him out of school after first grade, and it took more than a year, but it took 8 months to get him back from being a snot, because 2 years of being in school turned him into a snot.
Hmm.
And then it took me over a year to untrain him.
Yes.
He had to be 100% dependent on the teacher.
Hmm.
Because if you do not have the dependence on the teacher, you have chaos in a classroom. So a teacher that does not teach the children that they are not allowed to do anything without the teacher say so is chaotic. And
Hmm.
that makes absolute sense. But I didn't want that. I wanted an independent learner who didn't need me, because I'm essentially lazy.
Yeah.
And I needed him to work by himself. So it took me forever. And then his brother came in and was only ever homeschooled, and he didn't ever need me. Not once. He
Hmm.
never needed me. It needs me for stupid crap, like, how do you spell what? And it's like, well, okay. Just dumb stuff like that, because Siri couldn't figure out the answer. So they beat a lot of creativity out of him, and if I'd left him in it, he would have been okay. He would probably have needed therapy because he was being bullied, but he would have been okay. But he would not be going to college at
No.
13.
No.
He wouldn't be even kind of close. We would have stayed on that same track, and we would have gone at the pace that everybody else was going on.
At best, you
And
would
he
have
would have
skipped a grade.
been, yeah, which they don't really like to do here. So
I
he'd have been
did say
bored.
at best. He would have been bored, and then he would have got burned out.
Yep.
And then at
And
20, he wouldn't have fucking cared.
no, he wouldn't have had the chance to learn and to do all of the things that he finds amazing and loves, and would have missed out on so much. But yeah, anyway, the point of it is that the school system, the system changed him.
Hmm.
The people were well-meaning. They really want the best for the kids.
I
They
agree.
really have a heart for this, but it's just not a good system.
No.
So okay, I guess I can buy that, but that doesn't necessarily say something about
Well,
where
yeah. That's what I'm saying
that doesn't
is
translate to the 50-year-old Las Vegas shooter.
no, and I'm very specifically talking. That's why I very specifically said school shootings. The
Yeah,
50-year-old Las Vegas shooter, who knows? Again, outliers. There are some cases that will never, you can't fix.
yeah,
Some people are born broken,
yeah,
and that sucks. We've evolved as a society to treat that with things, help as much as we can, but if they break to a degree we can't accept it, we have prisons for them.
yeah.
And maybe that's better than what we used to do as a collective. Maybe not.
Yeah, I like the Native American solution. They had a lazy ass man who was causing trouble and wouldn't do anything. They just took him out and shot him, not with a gun. They went
Mm.
out and killed him.
Hmm.
I'm like, that's a way of before he could procreate and ruin the rest of their tribe.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm pretty sure the ancient Greeks had a similar system.
yeah. Not that I am suggesting violence, but
No.
it did simplify things.
Hmm. Which that's what I'm saying is we've collectively, I guess, kind of evolved from that to say
Yeah,
society can't have that now. I'm
yeah.
not saying I agree or disagree, but that is what we did choose, a more civilized path,
Hmm.
which is fine.
It's a civilized path for dealing with uncivilized people.
Yes.
In
So,
the truest sense of the word, these are not people who live in in our civilization.
mhm.
They're in their own thing.
So for the outliers, I'm sorry, there's pretty much nothing that can be done.
Yeah.
But for the smaller ones, because you're gonna hear that stat of, oh, it's 2018 and we've had, was it 8 school shootings so far?
It has been a lot.
It's fake. It is, but
Been a bunch
it's
of like shootings at schools, they're not that. I mean, like, I've seen the news reports as they come out. There was another school shooting. The kids have been locked down. Blah blah blah. It's been a lot,
Hmm.
but not like this.
It's been a lot, but we say school shootings, and the reason you don't hear about them all that often is it's like 0 death, 1 injury.
Yep.
1 death, no injuries.
Yep.
You don't hear about it until it's 17 dead
Yeah.
and 14 injured. Then it's a crisis. But that's an outlier, and we can't do anything about outliers. Or we can,
Okay, so you're saying that the big mass shootings are the outliers.
yes.
Okay, where they're completely successful in killing a bunch of people.
Hmm. The huge
Okay.
ones everyone can name off: Columbine, Charles Whitman, Florida,
Hmm.
Sandy Hook,
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. These are things that the people are broken.
Yeah.
It's called a flame out, where
Okay.
where and it doesn't happen in every case, but there's a lot of them where it's they kill their family and then go kill everyone at the school that they know.
Okay.
And it's because they want to die and they want to take everyone with them. They want
Yeah.
to cause as much pain as they can
Yeah.
and completely cut themselves out of the world. I don't know how you help that. You just look for it, FBI. When you're told twice
Right.
about it, you look for it and you try to not make it happen.
Yeah. There is a kid here in Baltimore. Her dad just turned her into the police because he had a journal. And this was what shocked me is it was a girl.
Hmm.
She had plans for killing everybody. So he turned her in.
Oh, that shouldn't surprise you too much.
The girl it doesn't have to be girls. I
Uh,
can't name a girl shooter. I can't name a girl shooter in a situation.
uh,
So
uh,
there you go.
I can usually, but
Okay.
I'm a little bit brain foggy. What is
But you
her
know what I
name?
mean? It's typically boys.
It typically is, yes, but uh, girls are not as rare as you would expect.
Okay.
Or maybe they are. I don't know what you expect. If you expect never, then you're wrong.
I don't expect never. I just expect it to be less than 10%.
What? Oh yeah, okay, it's probably less than 10%, but it does happen. And uh, there's actually a song. I don't know if you've ever heard of this song. I don't like Mondays. It's a British song from the
Yeah.
70s. All right. Um, one of the first well-known school shooters. Like I think this was after Whitman though. Can I find her? But yeah, she just sat up with a rifle and picked kids off as they came in and out. And when they arrested her and asked her why she did it, she replied, "I don't like Mondays."
Huh. Well, as long as she had a good reason.
Hmm. Like I said, some of these you can't help.
Yeah.
The outliers. It's the randomness of it. It's a flame out. They want to die and they want to cause pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good Lord. Well,
But the smaller ones, we can do something about. And banning assault rifles does nothing to do with anything for that.
so what can we do about it then?
Change the schools.
Well, that is changing a really, really big ass ship, trying to get it to steer in another direction.
Okay. Do it. That's the conversation
Yeah.
now. And yes, it is a huge change that will take time to do, and so that's worth doing. We made a podcast on how to make a better school,
Yeah.
and I stick by that. I stick with what we plotted out there
Mm-hmm.
would decrease all the little shootings that could be done something about. And we'll just look at these numbers. 1970s, which is, I think we can. Isn't the 70s when the school started to change for the first time and started to suck?
When was that?
It was either 70 or 80s. But, all right, let's just look through here. We have 1950s, deaths 13. 1960 deaths 42. 1970s deaths 36. 1980 deaths 51. 1990s, it doesn't give me a total. Why didn't you give me a total? That's a lot of scrolling.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea of, like, scrolling through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, like, the 50s fits on one page. The 60s almost fits on one page. The 70s, you have to scroll very little. The 80s, I have to scroll 3 times. The 90s, still scrolling. Oh, there we go. Okay. Reached the end of it.
Good Lord.
Mm-hmm. 2000s, reached the end of it. And then 2010, just 2010, is about the same size of 1950s.
Okay. Well.
And it goes like that from there on, except 2013 alone, I have to scroll through. 2013, 19 deaths. 2014, 17 deaths. 2015, 21 dead. 2016, 10 dead. 2017, 19 dead. And 2018, February, 20 dead.
Yeah.
Something is wrong, and it's not the availability of guns, because the availability of guns has always been there.
Okay. I mean, the schools were pretty terrible when we were in high school. It was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And the numbers back that up.
Okay, that's true, because we were in high school when Columbine happened.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of bullying too.
To some degree, but that's what the system that is currently set up encourages.
How does it encourage bullying?
How does it encourage bullying? Because you sit kids down and give the idea that the authority figure is the head of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their day. And then you go into free time. Wouldn't you expect that they would then turn and say, I'm the authority figure and you're going to do what I say?
Yeah, but the kids do that no matter what.
To some degree, kids do that. But if you look at research into play, the hierarchy is established in a more natural setting. And cooperation happens a lot more often.
I have noticed that, yes. I've been making a study of the 4-year-olds in my house. Because I'm weird like that.
Yeah.
But I've been watching them, like closely watching them as they negotiate through the social contract of play. And, one of them will get bossy and they'll say, don't boss me. And, then another one will start whining of like, you're being too mean. And the first one knows, okay, I'm getting too mean and they're not going to play with me if I don't knock it off.
Yeah. So you get bullies by authority figures.
Yeah.
Whether that is the teacher, the principal, when they get in trouble, it just reinforces their behavior to see the next authority figure has to deal with me. And you get that naturally from parents who went through the same pattern. And the entire thing is reinforced at every step through the system.
Yeah.
So you have no break. You have the overbearing authority figure at home. You have the overbearing authority figure at school. And then in your free time, You're the overbearing authority figure.
Yeah, because they're playing it out.
Hmm. So,
All right, I can see a case for that.
we can't necessarily 100% fix the home issue in every case because
Like, not at all fix it.
no,
Yeah.
except we can alleviate it with the school. And if you alleviate it with the school, you might just break the pattern of the home.
Hmm.
If the bully isn't reinforced at the school, because the bully also they get social standing from this.
Yeah.
So if we at least somewhat take that away,
Mm-hmm.
it may take 3 generations. It may help.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I can't. It's like telling people they need to stop eating sugar. Nobody's going to want to hear this.
No, no one's going to want to hear this out.
Nobody wants to hear this.
No, but and yes, it's not an immediate fix. I'm sorry, there are no immediate fixes. Banning assault rifles sounds like an immediate fix. It's not. You're dumb. Move on.
Yeah.
Get to the root. Stop treating the fever when the cancer is eating you.
Yeah. Well, in that analogy, I can see treating the fever and going after the cancer.
Yes, I'm not saying don't
like,
go
I'm
after
all
the
for-
fever. I'm just saying the fever is a symptom. Let's look for the cause.
Agreed.
Because the cause is where the conversation needs to happen.
Yeah.
And if we're not having that conversation, then we're just talking to talk.
Well, we are kind of just talking to talk, but that's okay.
I mean, even we're just talking to talk, but
We're talking time to knit. That's what we're doing.
well, yeah, that too. But if you're going to talk, then at least have something more substantive than, oh, MSNBC told me this, so I'm going to repeat it. Because they're the great brain trust of fucking no one. And that goes for Fox News too. They're all fucking idiots. Stop repeating them. Learn to think. Break the cycle. I'm just like, I don't know. It's so frustrating to be sidetracked by this. I went through an entire thing where the last mass shooting, Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't the last, but the time before the last, I guess it was. Was it the time before? I think it was.
It was the time before the last.
Okay.
It was Vegas last and then Orlando.
Okay. So during the Orlando debacle, and my entire Facebook feed is, oh my God, guns. And I just took an afternoon and looked at every mass shooting in the history of documents that we have for mass shootings.
Yeah.
Guess what you find? It's not guns. It's not assault rifles.
Okay.
There's just nothing to back it up. If you're going to have the gun conversation, handguns kill everyone. Handguns wins hands down. In mass shootings, in crime shootings, handguns wins. And handguns not used for hunting. You don't even get that argument.
No. Well, rabbits.
Well,
if you shoot a rabbit, you're more likely to blow up most of the meat anyway.
Yeah. A rabbit, we're talking 22s, and 22s are by far the least used, except, 22s get a bad name because you go back to Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
But
all right.
Yeah, it's handguns kill the most people. It's just how it is.
This whole topic is so depressing.
It really is.
I mean, but I have to say that the memes are getting more creative.
Mm.
Have you seen them?
Not
You can
really.
take my gun over my child's cold dead meat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, ooh, that's an effective message. If that's what your goal is.
Yeah.
I I'm kind of impressed with that one.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah.
And
I've stayed silent. Not that I don't feel for them, but
I,
I don't
I've
know.
I've avoided all social media since it happened because I know it's there and I know it's gonna hurt my brain.
Yeah. I haven't avoided it. I've just been silent on the whole thing.
No, I've avoided it. I don't care what people have to say because people are having the wrong conversation.
Well, you cannot prove that it's schools, though. It's supposition, and it's good supposition, but you know, it. I don't think it's quite. I don't think it's as simple as that. Yes, the private schools may not have as many. I certainly don't know any homeschoolers going on shooting sprees, but the sample size is small. The population is skewed to socioeconomic differences where people can afford things like mental health care and blah blah blah. So you can't. I mean,
Yeah, except mental
it's
health care has
not.
been a joke.
Yeah, but if your parents have millions, it's not a joke for you. It's
Yes, but
an attainable thing.
how?
Like, well, if you have millions, you can hire a psychologist.
Yes, and psychologists have been going off bad information for how many years now?
Yeah. hmm
Because
But
a psychologist never tells you to cut out sugar.
no, but the wealthy tend to not have fat children because they eat better.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, anyway. That was not the case when we were younger.
Yeah.
But
Well, no, to some degree, there was, I think, more vegetables were bought in healthier households. They might be
yes,
related
it's,
because if you eat healthy, you have better brain function. If you have brain function, you might be a little more successful.
yeah. But yeah, that kind of proves my point. Like, it's not just a school issue.
I
It's
didn't
a
say it was
holistic.
just a school issue. I'm just saying, I think the biggest factor here is the school issue.
We could just correlate this to the rise in sugar and call it a day. Sugar is all evil.
Oh, I completely agree.
The low-fat diet thing,
And if you really want
high
to,
sugar.
if you really want to look into it, look at the school, food in schools.
Ooh, yeah. Huh. So yeah, because the low-fat, high-sugar diet came in around when the school shooting started to really. Um, no, it came around earlier than that, and that makes sense because you had to grow the kids into being the shooters.
Yep.
So we'll just blame it on sugar. Sugar is evil.
It we could just say
It's not a
nutrition.
leap, I swear.
Nah,
Yeah.
it really isn't a leap. If we look at it, we look at the dietary changes happened in the 70s. Dietary
hmm
changes on a governmental level, which means the food in schools changed then.
That's true.
And then you get to the 90s where this really started to amp up. And I don't know about you, but even my little ass school saw things like Coke machines on campus
Yes.
and Hot Pockets
We
and
had.
pizza in the cafeteria.
I ate soft pretzels for lunch most days
I ate cheese
because
fries,
with fake cheese products.
which with fake
Ooh,
cheese fries, I should say. With
sure. Well, they're probably real potatoes.
real potatoes, but fake cheese. It was,
Yeah, it's always fake cheese.
and I had that pretty much every day. They were delicious and fucking awful for me. But what did I know?
Yes.
I was a teenager.
Nobody says, yeah. I was like, I'm speaking to a friend about this, and you know, I want to say giving your kids the food that they want to eat is not helpful for them. That's not loving them.
No.
That's not giving full life. it's just not. And
And
you can't say that. You cannot say that to anybody because they don't want to hear. And I don't want to be that stick in the ass, or yeah, stick in the mud.
yeah,
Stick in the ass works too.
yeah, it
Stick in the
does.
mud saying, it's reprehensible to give your kids candy every day.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really is. It is reprehensible.
Wait,
They should not have candy every day.
where do you draw the line
No.
at candy?
Well, you know what I mean. Like,
I,
you have to draw a line somewhere.
I know, but I'm saying like you say candy, and we say candy because of sugar,
Nobody has a candy deficiency.
but what's in ketchup?
Sugar.
What's the favorite thing every kid loves to put on almost all their food?
Sugar.
Ketchup.
Oh, well, ketchup. Yeah.
So yeah,
Nobody around here cares.
I'm just saying like the link between nutrition and the school definitely a factor.
Yeah. I have not always been the best parent about feeding kids. Today, I gave the kids a, freezer pizza. I mean, it was a gluten-free, dairy-free freezer pizza. So it was not like it was great for them. But it was still like, okay, I don't have any time to do this, and they're little and they'll eat it, and I don't have to focus on this. I can just give it to them. So I really do get it. But, ugh.
And also, but this isn't going to be nutrition, but let's look how schools treat people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, and I'm stealing this from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Let's say you have a spelling test,
Mm-hmm.
and the question is, how do you spell cat? And the first student says CAT. They get a check mark. They got that answer correct.
Mm-hmm.
The next student says KAT. They get an X. They were incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
The next kid says XQW. They get an X. That was incorrect. The exact same marking the kid who got KAT there.
Yeah.
So you're telling these kids they are equally wrong.
Yeah.
Where you can see KAT, at least you saw effort being put into thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Where the XQW kid don't
There's
think
no
he really
shits to
tried. Yeah. But they are equals in their wrongness.
That's true.
Tell me that's not a problem?
Well, shit, I don't know.
It's just like you said. And to further show that, he went into if you were to ask on a job interview, like, how tall is the building we're in? Let's say it's at a college. How tall is the building we're in? And the first candidate says, "Oh, well, I actually know a little bit about this school, and this building is, 50 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
I've read it on the website. It's a nice little interesting history." And the next candidate says, "I don't know. I'll be right back," and goes outside and measures the shadow, and then does a ratio for how he got the measurement at the time of day, and comes back and says 48 feet, and he's 2 feet off, a little bit wrong.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
Just saying, who do you go for as hiring someone? The person who's completely right and knows the answer, the way schools teach kids how to act, or the person who can think, which is not what schools are doing. Personally, I'd rather have the guy who was a little bit wrong, but knew how to think.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal opinion from someone who, ask an entrepreneur that.
Yeah.
Ask anyone who runs a business who they would rather hire. I'm pretty sure you're getting the same answer every time.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. All right, well, you've thoroughly depressed me now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Woohoo, your job is done.
Yeah. I feel like I've done enough.
Mm-hmm.
I depressed everyone and pissed them off at the same time.
You are so talented.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to discuss next week? The appropriateness of thumb screws?
Suppose torture is a moral good.
I am not even going there.
That's not the topic, but
Ugh.
I thought, I'm sitting here thinking, what can I say that's worse?
I don't know.
The only thing I could come up with was torture and abortion. I don't want to touch either one of those.
No, I don't want to either.
Next week, I have a few options. You want to pick one?
Okay.
I'll let you
Sure.
pick.
All right.
Let's see.
Since
Do it.
you hit me over the head with this one.
Yeah. Because that's what I do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'd be good content.
Mm-hmm.
Was I wrong?
No, it was good.
Let's see. Do you want to do multiverse? We can do allergies. We can do Dunning-Kruger. We could do, suppose you had to take part of an atrocity. Technology is taking over, or propaganda is everywhere.
Let's do allergies.
All right.
We'll be heading into allergy season.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I did write that one. I wrote down ages ago where you said you want to do allergies one day. So I'm not surprised by your choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Until next week, then.
Let's see. Be safe.
Uh-huh. Change the school system. Good
Yeah.
luck with that.
Mm-hmm. Later.
Bye.